Today's video is brought to you by creativesdothis.com.
Hey guys, Smiling, and I am standing outside my home.
Something truly horrific to happen on any day, but to happen on Christmas. People here are still working to process what happened a few doors down.
Hey guys, Smiling, and I'm hanging out with Nigel on Christmas Eve. And we're about to embarrass ourselves. We're gonna sing. You ready?
Yeah.
Me. Okay, sorry. You better watch out.
Before anyone knew his name, before the TV segments, documentaries, the cookbooks, Anthony Milan Ross was just a man trying to save his own life. At first, that's exactly what he did. He told his story everywhere he went. How one morning, after years of struggling with his health, he stepped on a scale and realized that he couldn't keep living the way that he was. He weighed more than 500 pounds. He felt trapped in his own body, and according to him, that moment became his breaking point and his turning point. He switched to a plant-based vegan diet. He started walking, then jogging, then running. The pounds just fell away. The cameras came out, and slowly a new version of Anthony emerged. One that he would later call Milan his middle name. Because to him, this really did feel like a rebirth. People watched him transform online and they were inspired too. This wasn't just about losing weight, it was about a complete reinvention. Soon he was speaking at wellness events. He was teaching cooking classes. He was sharing his story with anyone else who felt hopeless. He even landed spots on TV shows, segments where he'd smile, chop vegetables, and talk about how changing his diet changed his destiny. To his followers, he seemed like proof that anyone could turn their life around. A man who had pulled himself out of the darkness, and he'd done it through discipline, optimism, and kale smoothies. And for a while, it really did look like he'd become everything that he said he was. But behind the scenes, in the part of his life that he never put online, something else was happening. Something that he couldn't cook or charm his way out of. Something that would eventually overshadow every achievement that he ever claimed.
Hey, it's Smiling. Just finishing up my workout for the day. It's about 10:30 at night. You're not competing against anybody but yourself. You don't have anything to prove to anybody but yourself. So just go in there, give it all you got, leave it in the gym. All right.
By the way, this is Dark Case, and you can call me Jack. I bring you rare and unseen true crime cases, as well as other things that you may later regret knowing, with multiple uploads every single week. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, make sure you join the Dark Case family now by simply hitting subscribe, and definitely just make sure that all notifications are turned on, because only about 5% of you are getting notifications sent through. I'm going to be covering some more Christmassy cases like this one for the rest of the year, as well as my normal, not Christmassy content. And now for today's silly little question. If you could only have one thing for Christmas this year, what would it be? Let me know down in the comments. All of your support over on Patreon, as well as right here via channel memberships on YouTube are so appreciated, and I really can't thank you all enough. However, of course, thank you. But now, on with the video. As the months went by, Milan's story only grew bigger. People loved the transformation. They loved the energy that he brought into every room. They loved the idea that change, real change, was possible. And Milan had leaned into this hard. He wrote books about his journey. He started filming polished videos about healthy living. And his Instagram profile became a highlight of positivity, of bright colours, of merch, and of plant-based meals arranged like artwork. Soon, Anthony wasn't just a man who had lost weight. He was a full-on personal brand. A personal brand with speaking gigs, partnerships, and a growing fan base that saw him as a symbol of hope. And then came his big moment, his appearance in the feature documentary Eating You Alive. It wasn't a huge film, but it did feature major names like Samuel L. Jackson and James Cameron. And Milan, well, he was right there among them. He was telling his story with conviction, smiling like a man who had truly outrun his past.
Hey guys, this is Milan Ross, and I am hanging with a movie star. Ms. Teresa and I just finished filming for The List, and we're here still on set, and I wanted to just say, man, that was fun.
That was so fun. Milan is an incredible cook, which you know already if you follow him. He made, can I show them this bacon cheeseburger? He made this bacon cheeseburger, and it was honestly one of the best things I've ever eaten. It does not have bacon.
No cheese.
It does not have a burger.
Yep.
But it does have good vibes.
And great flavor. We cooked this up. We made shrimp po' boys. Guys, they were good, and they're gone, but we did do shrimp po' boys.
We could show them, but these are the
After that, doors started opening. He would cook on local morning shows. He appeared at food festivals. He signed copies of his books. And he took photos with fans who said he changed their lives. Everywhere that he went, he presented himself as the guy who had done the impossible, the unstoppable success story. But with this visibility came pressure. Pressure to stay inspirational, to stay relevant, to stay perfect. And the people closest to him, the ones who saw him when the cameras were turned off, started noticing it more and more. The image that he showed the outside world was spotless, but maintaining that persona, it seemed to take everything that he had. Behind the bright smile, there were cracks. Subtle at first, easy to miss, but they widened as his fame grew. And while his followers saw a man rising, his family saw a man changing and sinking into darkness. They saw him changing in ways that would eventually terrify them. Ways that no cooking show, no documentary, and no inspirational success story could ever cover up. This video is sponsored by Creatives Do This, a platform that I've helped to launch that features real interviews with real artists, candle makers, musicians, and creatives of all kinds who are making it work. Right now, we're looking for creatives to feature. So if you've made money from your creativity, whether it's a full-time career or a new side hustle, and you want to share how you did it, we'd love to hear your story. It's just a short text-based interview and it takes around 10 minutes. And in return, you get free lifetime access to everything that the platform becomes. Plus, your work will get featured to inspire others and to build your brand. Hit the link in the description or the pinned comment to take the quick interview and to become one of the 100 founding members. There's now less than 50 spaces left. www.creativesdothis.com. While Milan's public life was rising, his private world, the one that he rarely talked about in interviews, that looked different. At the center of his world was Iris. She was 38 years old, a healthcare administrator, quiet, steady, a rock, deeply compassionate in a way that people remembered long after knowing her. If Milan represented transformation, Iris represented stability. She was a person who made sure the bills were paid, that appointments were scheduled, that the kids were safe, and that their life always stayed anchored. She adored her children.
Hey guys, this is Milan Ross, and I got my road buddy here with me. We are finally in LA, and we are headed to the Dr. Phil's house to film. We're gonna be filming tonight, so we will broadcast from there and say what's up to you guys. Nigel hasn't stopped talking since we got here. He is so excited. I am just looking forward to being a support system for him while he's on the show. Nigel, you want to say anything?
Well,
He looks like he's winning an Oscar right now. Go ahead.
I would just like to thank my parents and family for, I just want to say this is going to be fun.
I don't know where he got that from. Guys, we're excited to be here. We will talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
Nigel, sweet, creative, sensitive, and with a smile that made hearts melt. And baby Anola, only 10 months old, barely beginning to understand the world that she had been brought into. To friends, they looked like a family that had survived challenges, but that had now found their footing. A family that had weathered storms, but had always tried to stay whole. But inside the home, things were shifting. Milan's long hours spent cultivating his brand, the growing pressure to maintain a public persona, and the emotional weight that he carried, it all began to seep into the marriage.
Hey guys, it's Milan Ross, and I am finally in Albany, headed to the house I'm staying in so that I can get freshened up. My flight was a mess. They flew me to Washington, D.C., and then canceled pretty much all the flights out of there. So I drove all night long. It's like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning here in Albany now, so that I could make sure that I'm at plant stock, because I'm so excited to meet all of you guys. I'm sitting in the car with my Uber driver. Say what's up, man.
What's up, guys?
And we are on our way there. I'll be there in about 45 minutes, and then I will be at plant stock.
Iris noticed it first. The mood swings, the strange comments, the sudden bursts of anger followed by apologies. At times he could be loving, attentive and devoted. At other times he felt distant, consumed by an internal battle that she just couldn't see. The split finally came in June of 2017, when Iris filed for divorce. This wasn't something that she chose to do, she was more forced into it. Forced out of fear and exhaustion. To her sister and close friends, she confided that Milan had begun acting unpredictably. After the divorce papers were filed, those cracks in Milan's polished persona stopped being subtle. They spread out fast. Friends noticed it, and then family, then even casual acquaintances. People who had only interacted with him a handful of times. All of them knew that something was off. He wasn't the confident speaker from his videos. He wasn't the polished chef who smiled effortlessly on camera. He wasn't the inspirational figure. He was restless, agitated, erratic, and he was becoming increasingly unpredictable. According to Iris's sister, Mary, his messages towards Iris swung violently between desperation and hostility. One moment he'd call her a whore. If I had to bleep that, it rhymes with bore. And the next moment he'd tell her how deeply he loved her, how he wanted the family back together, how they could still fix everything. And woven between these contradictions there were disturbing claims. Claims that he was working with a voodoo priest in New Orleans, that he was placing hexes on people, that there were forces shifting around him. It was the kind of talk that made Iris's family sit up, and now realize that something beyond simple stress was taking a hold of him. Then came the rumours from friends, rumours that he wasn't sleeping, sometimes for days on end. He talked rapidly, spiralling, unable to focus or calm down. At times he'd show up at Iris's home unannounced to pick up the children. Once he even arrived with a firearm tucked out of view. A detail that Iris's roommate would later call, "The moment I realised something was terribly wrong." But Milan still insisted to others that everything was fine, and that he was planning for the future. He had just adopted a dog, and in fact he had moved on romantically, and he had just proposed to his girlfriend 3 days before Christmas. He even wrote himself a business check on Christmas Eve. On the surface, these were the actions of a man thinking about tomorrow. But underneath, beneath the engagements, the pets, the plans, a different story was developing too. Because at the same time, in the same late night hours when he couldn't sleep, Milan was online searching for things that no motivational speaker should ever need to know. Silencers, battery acid, sulfuric acid, skin melting acid, news about a different man that had done the unthinkable to his family on Christmas Day. Some kind of sick plan was forming in his mind, and then he told at least one person close to him to expect something big on Christmas. The people around him hoped that these were just dark thoughts that had been brought on by depression and exhaustion. But they weren't simple thoughts, not anymore. They were the beginning of a physical plan. A plan that Iris could never have imagined when she filed for divorce. A plan that would come to life in less than 48 hours. Christmas Eve should have been peaceful, full of laughter, fun, exciting and warm. But inside Milan's apartment, the atmosphere was anything but. He barely slept in days. He was drinking, now heavily, half a bottle of whiskey before noon. Messages were pouring out of him, faster than he could think them through. Some were apologetic, some were angry, some were heartbreaking, and some were chilling. He sent a message to Iris that morning speaking in circles, hurt, depressed, blaming himself, blaming her, offering apologies 1 minute, and then making ominous comments the next. But despite everything, he still had time for one more performance.
Hey guys, Smiling, and I'm hanging out with Nigel on Christmas Eve, and we're about to embarrass ourselves. We're gonna sing. You ready?
Yeah.
Me. Okay, sorry. You better watch out.
You better not cry.
You better not pout.
I'm telling you why.
Santa Claus is coming to town.
Dope.
This Christmas Eve video, the one he posted online with his son, Nigel, a video that would take on a whole different tone very shortly after it was filmed. I know what you're thinking, that video looked fine, and on the surface it was. After all, there was nothing bad visible in the clip. There weren't any clear warning signs. However, this video was filmed after those sick internet searches, after those sleepless nights, after the erratic behaviour had reached a new peak, after he had told people to expect something big. But that video, where Nigel is smiling, singing, waving, it isn't a snapshot of a happy father. It's a mask, and it's slipping. A last carefully constructed moment from a man whose entire life had become a false image to maintain, and it would be Christmas Day that image finally crumbled. By early afternoon on December the 25th, Iris gathered herself and drove to his apartment to pick up the kids. Despite everything, all the threats, the unpredictability, the comments, the fear, she still believed in co-parenting. She still believed that Milan loved his children. She still believed that whatever darkness was consuming him, it didn't include them. It is now Christmas Day. By the time witnesses understood what they were seeing, it was already too late. A woman was running, fast, terrified, across the courtyard of the Phoenix apartment complex. That woman was Iris. Neighbours later said that she looked like she was trying to escape something that had suddenly happened, something horrific, something that she didn't have time to explain. Following behind her was Milan. But he wasn't the chef, he wasn't the public speaker, he wasn't the man from the Christmas Eve video. This was a different version of him, entirely. The version that had been transforming quietly for months. According to witnesses, Iris reached the patio area. She turned back and tried to plead with him. Before anyone could intervene, Milan raised the firearm. A neighbour called out, "Is she okay?" And Milan, without hesitation, responded simply, "No." And he was right. She was not okay. He then pointed the weapon towards the witness, forcing them back. He then turned and walked back to his apartment, leaving Iris lying on the patio. Moments later, neighbours heard 2 or 3 more shots coming from inside. The complex erupted into chaos. People ran, people hid, people dialed 911 with shaking hands, desperately trying to make sense of what they'd just seen. Then at 2:52 p.m, Iris's sister's phone buzzed. It was a text message from Milan. 2 sentences. "I just killed Iris and the kids with a gun." Outside the apartment complex, witnesses were already screaming for help, and police then arrived at 3:45 p.m. They found Iris on the ground unresponsive, but the children, Nigel and Anola, they were nowhere in sight. Officers surrounded the building. They called out to Milan. They tried to negotiate. They tried to keep their voices calm. And from inside the apartment, Milan began talking. At first he said the children were okay. Then he threatened to hurt them if officers didn't leave. Then, just minutes later, he claimed he had already ended their time on this earth. Every statement contradicted the last. Nobody knew what was true anymore. With each response, the situation grew darker. Negotiators tried to keep him talking. They tried to buy time, tried to create any opening that might save the kids. Hours passed, the sun went down, and then, the quiet of Christmas night, it was shattered again and again by sudden cracks of gunfire from inside that apartment. At around 7:30 p.m, Milan fired directly at officers, striking one with shrapnel. The officer was rushed to the hospital, injured but alive. SWAT teams deployed robots to reduce risk. The first robot slipped through the doorway, and it rolled cautiously down the hall. Minutes later, the camera feed revealed a small, motionless figure. It would be Anola. There was no movement, no possibility she'd survived. Officers continued forward, and inside another room, past broken debris and overturned furniture, they found Nigel. His time too had come to an end. At 10 p.m, after nearly 7 hours of negotiation, Milan opened fire once again, this time at the tactical team breaching the door. Officers returned fire, and within minutes, Milan surrendered. The siege was over. He was taken out in handcuffs, uninjured and silent. In the span of a single afternoon, the man who had built his entire career on transformation had destroyed the 3 people who once believed most deeply in who he had become. In the days after this horrifying event, Phoenix struggled to understand what had happened. The Christmas Eve video spread online, no longer a sweet father-son moment, but now a haunting artifact. The last recorded glimpse of a world that would be gone within just hours. Reporters replayed it, investigators studied it, and everywhere people would ask the same question. How does a man go from singing carols to destroying his family in a single day?
Something truly horrific to happen on any day, but to happen on Christmas. People here are still working to process what happened a few doors down. And police here say that the tragic video shown that you are about to see is just unbelievable. It's unreal to think what they say happened later.
Smiling, and I'm hanging out with Nigel on Christmas Eve.
Anthony Milan Ross seen here with his son. This video posted to Ross's business Facebook page just hours before police say he murdered his family.
I just heard the lady screaming, and I just heard the 2 gunshots.
This neighbor, not wanting to go on camera, says she called Phoenix police. Officers arriving to this apartment complex on Highland Avenue to find Ross's estranged wife, Iris Ross, gunned down lifeless in the parking lot. Ross barricaded with his children. A standoff and negotiations lasting more than 6 hours, ending in gunfire and 1 injured officer. Our crews just a few feet away. Earlier today, I spoke with a woman who tells me she is the former wife of the suspect, and she says nearly 2 decades ago, he left her and their 4 children after a very relationship. Friends that I spoke with of yesterday's victim, identified as Iris Ross, tell me she too was working to leave an abusive relationship.
The 2 women say Anthony Milan Ross abandoned a previous family in Missouri and kept them a secret from his children and his wife right here in Phoenix.
They tell Team 12's Jessica DeNova that they endured a monstrous childhood. Jessica?
His daughters say it's clear his mental and behavioral issues came back to haunt him and the family he lied to for years.
Kept us a secret, a dark, dirty secret.
That family, 4 girls and a wife, abandoned in Missouri back in 2003. Court documents show their mother, Nicole Ross, filing for divorce in St. Louis 5 years later. Her earnest, diligent attempts to locate him unsuccessful. Anthony Milan Ross would go on to marry Iris Sutherland in 2009.
Between 4 and 7 years into their marriage, Iris discovered that Milan had a previous marriage, and that he had abandoned and to be with Iris. And Iris felt the breach was that she didn't have a choice.
But Iris got out, divorcing Ross in September with joint custody of their children. A talk with the women who Ross kept a secret may have pushed Iris to fight for sole custody of Nigel and Anola. Those women devastated to discover the man who fathered them is now accused of murdering Iris, Nigel, and Anola on Christmas Day.
I am horrified and my heart is broken for Miss Iris's family.
His eldest, Shalonda Ross, telling 12 News she still has nightmares of the days staying home from school until the bruises were gone.
He had this story about how he lost all the weight.
Milan Ross crediting his vegan plant-based diet for his dramatic change, but his second eldest, Ebony Ross, says their dad's use of food inspiring strangers to live healthier lives.
He would withhold food from us.
Is a reminder of the torture they suffered as children.
Blow the smell of the chili cheese dogs in our face. We would only get butter and sugar rice for that entire year. Please don't think it can never be you, because you will wake up one day and you'll feel like you're in a nightmare.
Milan's trial wouldn't begin until years later, September 2023. But when it finally started, the courtroom was thick with tension. The prosecution painted a clear picture. What Milan did was planned. It was premeditated and deliberate. They cited the internet searches for weapons, silencers, and acid, even news articles about Christmas Day family annihilations. They emphasized Milan's growing fixation with maintaining his celebrity persona, his fear of losing status, his dependence on Iris's income, that had been used to fund the lifestyle that he projected. And beneath all that, they said, was a man preparing for something catastrophic. The defense, of course, countered with a different story. They spoke of crushing depression, of spiraling mental health, of nights without sleep that stretched into weeks. They argued that Milan's bizarre searches were only obsessive thoughts, and they were not evidence of planning. They said that he had proposed to his new girlfriend, that he had adopted a dog, that he'd written that business check to himself, and that these were all signs, they said, of someone thinking about the future, not someone plotting to wipe out his nearest and dearest. The jury listened to everything, the witnesses, the evidence, the texts, the timeline, and they made their decision. On November 3rd, 2025, they found Anthony Milan Ross guilty on all counts. 3 counts of first-degree murder, multiple counts of aggravated assault, 17 counts of assaulting a peace officer. His sentencing is set for January 2026, and at this time the death penalty is still on the table. In the end, the story of Anthony Milan Ross, it's no longer a story about weight loss or fame. It isn't about cookbooks, documentaries, or the version of himself that he tried so hard to sell to the world. It's about the gap, the dangerous, widening gap between who someone appears to be and who they actually are when they turn the cameras off. Milan built a persona on transformation, on overcoming darkness, on becoming the best version of himself. But the people closest to him saw the reality, they saw the truth. They saw him unraveling. They saw what he never addressed publicly, simply because it didn't fit the brand. His fame became a mask. His success became his camouflage. Yet the real pain, untreated and unacknowledged, it festered behind it. The price of that silence was everything. Iris, Nigel, Anola. In the end, no transformation story, no polished video, no smiling Christmas Eve performance could hide it anymore. Their story is the reminder. What's curated isn't always what's true, and it's often people that appear the brightest that cast the longest shadows. Be careful out there, and I'll see you soon.